was so unbelievably gay. So unbelievably gay?
Gay?
Mic check, mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2. What's going on with y'all, man? What's happening? It's your dread-headed host with yet another dose, keeping you engrossed from coast to coast. That's right. If you've been rocking with me, welcome back. And if you're new here, as always, welcome. Love to have you. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoy. We're getting into some heavy shit tonight. That's right. Now, as I welcome y'all into another edition of Dion Midnight Talks. That's right. This one is just going to be me in the studio. No special guest today. I was actually watching. I just tell you how this all came to fruition. I'm watching the Boondocks the other day, specifically the story of Gangstalicious Part 2. And it struck me. Oh, shit. I said I was going to do a whole lot of Pride content. This is actually just struck a chord. I'm like, this is something I've been thinking about, something I was like, we can definitely talk about it, and something that definitely doesn't get talked about nearly as much, doesn't get acknowledged nearly as much as it should. It's swept under the rug pretty much all the time, and it's just accepted kind of as a thing you just have to deal with. It just is what it is, and I disagree. I think we have a chance to grow. I think we have a chance to evolve, to learn, and to be better, because right now, it's not nearly as good as it could be, or as it should be. So, in honor of Pride Month, in a timely manner, down here at the end of the line, last couple of days, I want to talk about homophobia, specifically homophobia in the African American or the black community. I'm going to be calling it the black community because I don't have time to say African American every time I want to talk about black people. If that bothers you, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sorry, but I don't have time for political correctness here. It's serious. Now, when you talk about homophobia, I'm not saying that black people are the most homophobic people in the world or anything like that. No, that's not what I'm getting at here. I'm just simply pointing out the fact that homophobia is rampant and has been for such a time in black community. And it goes back quite a ways. And again, a lot of civilizations do. There's still places in the world where you can't live there if you're gay, or they will execute you. All right? And I'm not going to name the countries like I know them off the top of my head, but I do know that there are countries where you can be killed for being gay, or you can be imprisoned, or something equally as ridiculous and terrible. So we're not nearly on that level, black people, so chill. But we got to talk about this. We got to talk about this. Now, the three pillars of homophobia in the black community, because you can boil it down to a lot of different microcosms of why it's here and the reasoning behind such and such, but I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to point to three tangible things that you can look at, and I bet you anyone who's listening to this can point to an example in their life, all right, when you've had some type of interaction that was similar to this, or directly derived from one of these three key things. So here it goes. The first being the fact that the black community has heavy ties to the church. All right, you talk about the family unit, things like that. You came up in the church. I mean, back in the day, that's where you go. I remember when my mom used to take me to church, when we used to go to black churches, you'd be there for like 3, 4, 5 hours. You know, I went to church with my friend a couple times. They had some fire breakfast. Don't get me wrong. Them sausage, egg, and grits were off the chain. All right, I had enough energy to praise the Lord after that early in the morning, best believe. All right, but then, you know, that was 8 a.m. So when 2 p.m. rolled around, I was like, what's going on? It's a 9 to 5. I'm not getting paid for this. That was just breakfast was so long ago. It's damn past lunch now. But all jokes aside, the church was a huge pillar in the black community. All right, it was a place where families could gather, a place of worship, a place of peace amongst all the strife that those communities were afflicted by. So the church, being historically anti-LGBTQ, it's a no-brainer that mentality would bleed over into the community that spent so much time with it. So it's not necessarily their fault. But when you latch on to dogma, religious dogma like that, and you get really narrow-minded in your approach and how you view the source material and how you interpret it and how you act upon it in your everyday life, then you start to miss out. You start to exclude people for reasons that you shouldn't exclude them for reasons that shouldn't matter in terms of a person-to-person interaction. right? You start to make people feel unwelcome, which ultimately goes against your cause. If you're trying to bring more people into the light, if you will, the approach just doesn't work. But the ties run deep. So naturally, oil and water, the two things aren't going to mix. All right, gays in the church historically don't mix. I hear the relations are getting a little bit better, right? I think the new pope is supposed to be cool or chill or something, but I know the archbishops feel some type of way about it. It's ridiculous. There's a whole system in place. And I don't know. It's definitely not going to change overnight. We'll see. But the gays in the church have been at odds for some time, and you know that. The second thing, and this arguably is the biggest thing, is the idea of hypermasculinity. All right, and for the black male to be the pillar of masculinity, and this comes in a lot of different forms. All right, now this whole idea of being the pinnacle of peak male everything, that goes back to some old animalistic, that's really some slave mentality. Because you could say, in a way, that when black people were put into bondage, by other people, when they were dominated and ruled over, lorded over by other people for that long, as the male, as the provider, a lot of times you get separated from your families. Things would happen to your family that were out of your control. I mean, your idea, your frame of masculinity was completely taken away. So after all that ended, naturally you're gonna see that pendulum swing all the way back. It's gonna get super masculine, and it's kind of a hangover, and it's good. You have that drive to protect your family, things like that, strength, strong will, pride, all that. All right, but you feel that itch, you feel that's pride fucking with you. All right, chill on all of that. Sometimes you gotta let your pride go so you can get somewhere. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's look into this a little bit. I'm gonna explain to you exactly what I mean by I say hypermasculinity, because it's a multifaceted statement, right? First of all, the portrayal in the media of black males. All right, historically speaking, for the most part, you look up, you see a black dude on TV. What they're gonna be? They'd be a gangbanger, gangster, in prison, something like that. Maybe they got locked up for God knows murder, probably some violent crime or drugs. So weed head, crackhead, something, Smokey from Friday, a villain. Sometimes, nowadays you'll see in the more a cool role, like Black Panther, T'Challa, or Shaft. I'm talking about Shaft before the current reboot Shaft. I'm talking about cool Shaft, Black Dynamite, things like that. But even those characters, the idea of being cool and that can go to a fault. All right, if that's the only archetype that you cling to, and anything outside of cool, anything abnormal, all right, queer, if you will, starts to get in the way of that, and it just can't. It just doesn't fit in line with the idea of what a black man's supposed to be, and that's media's fault. That's not necessarily even black people's fault. It is a little bit, because everyone has the ability to make their own decisions. They don't necessarily need to be influenced by what they saw on the TV, but it doesn't make it easy either. So both sides got some work to do on that. But then you look at on the other side of that coin, in terms of black man portrayal in the media, there's the idea of Hollywood having this whole vendetta or this whole plan to demasculate the black man in the media. So they have them dress up like women. They dress in drag, if you will. So you got the likes of like your Medea, Tyler Perry, 6 foot, 7 foot, bruh, dressed in a wig, old lady. Eddie Murphy, his roles in Norbit, Nutty Professor, Wesley Snipes. That's right, your boy Blade, if you didn't know, in the movie To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. He stars as one of the 3 drag queens in the movie, all right? And this is back before they had that good, RuPaul season 6 makeup. So he was looking dark and ashy in the mug with them wigs. Boy, woo! Child. But hey, I still like them in the movie. It's a good movie. Go check it out. To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. # Pride Month. But there it is. The idea that portrayal media. If you look at, for example, Riley from the Boondocks. You know, kind of the inspiration for kicking all this off. He serves as the kind of stereotype, the archetype, you know, for your typical black dude, you know, the guy who thinks everything is gay.
Nigga, you gay. You gay. Y'all niggas are gay. Nigga, you gay. That's gay.
That type of thing, you know, everything you see, oh, that's gay, blah, 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 and on and on. Take it to a different tip. Let's go over to your comedians. You know, some of the standouts, some of the voices in the community, right? I know y'all heard about Kevin Hart and his recent dealings, or not so recent dealings, his ongoing dealings, was things about what he said regarding gay people and his stand-up.
I'm gonna tell you guys one of my biggest fears. One of my biggest fears is my son growing up and being gay. That's a fear. Keep in mind, I'm not homophobic. I have nothing against gay people. Be happy. Do what you want to do. But me being a heterosexual male, if I can prevent my son from being gay, I will.
All right, but what people weren't really talking about when it came back around this most recent time is that Kevin Hart really isn't all that singular in telling those types of jokes. I mean, those types of jokes, because he was talking about, you know, his son, you know, getting into a gay situation with another little boy, and they're like 4 years old, and it's like, dude, calm down, all right? Calm all of that down. They ain't even hit puberty yet. Doesn't even know nothing about that yet, and you losing it over that. Like, chill. All right, that's that insecurity there. But that goes back. That joke has been repackaged and repurposed since the dawn of time. All right, you go back. Eddie Murphy was talking all kinds of stuff in Raw. I mean, he called everybody every which kind of fags and this, that, and the other the whole time. It was just blatant, brazen. Meanwhile, he's wearing that hot-ass red leather suit. All right. If there was a picture in the Webster Dictionary for the word flamboyant, it would be Eddie Murphy cross between, you know, Elton John at his finest. Just so you can get the full length of the color spectrum there. Got to keep PC. So you get your black, you get your white. But that Eddie Murphy raw suit was gay as hell, my guy. All right. But even the likes of Bernie Mac, and I love Bernie Mac. Right? Bernie Mac's show. All right, but then that Kings of Comedy, even before that, but that Kings of Comedy run that he did with Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer, great stand-up. If you haven't seen it, definitely go find it, check it out, and watch it. Shit's hilarious. It's before PC hit the fans, you know, people was just talking to talk, you know, and it was just jokes. But even then, he had that whole bit about his sister's kids, you know, and the little boy being a little sweet. And he called him all kinds of faggot and this, that, and the other too. So I was going to include a clip from the original Kings of Comedy that showcases the joke in question, but as you can imagine, that got copyrighted so fast it'll make your head spin. Suffice to say, Bernie goes on to talk about the way his nephew walking and talking and crying, even being indicative of him being gay. But again, I'm not trying to condemn Bernie here. I do love his work. He is a funny dude, but just to give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. Links in the description to the actual clip if you want to check it out. Pull no punches. But at the time, you know, 2000, 2005, around then, we weren't as, what's the word I'm looking for? Accepting? Yeah, I guess so, as we are now. So we just let it slide. All right, and if you were triggered by that, oops, my bad. Context matters. And then, even in present day, you have the likes of Dr. Umar Johnson. Now, Dr. Umar Johnson is an interesting case. All right. I came on Dr. Umar Johnson not too long ago, a couple months back. You know, I saw some interviews on the Breakfast Club, realized he had like 3 of them bad boys. I went back and watched all of them, watched some of his other stuff because he's a smart dude. You know, he's been around. He's well read. He's articulate. You know, his points are consistent. He's not saying anything that's necessarily illogical when he goes on his tangents, but so you know, and he's doing positive shit in the community. You know, he's getting schools together, things of that nature. You know, it's supposed to be a real positive influence overall, but you know, you can say there's things that got going on in his personal life and all that. I'm not gonna get into it. Y'all look it up if you want to. The main thing is intellectual brother. I agree with him on, you know, a lot of different points. He makes a lot of good points. I don't agree with him on everything. You know, sometimes he's wilding, like here. He really does not get behind the whole gay thing. All right. And his reasoning there, get this now, it's important, is because you cannot procreate with a same-sex couple. And his determination to to get the black family as strong as possible, right? Because that is his logic, right? Again, this is that single-minded view we talked about earlier, right? His views are logical, perhaps, but ultimately single-minded in his pursuit towards black supremacy, which is no doubt a hangover from that slave mentality that he's so desperately rising to escape from. Straight up. So, it is what it is. You know, you agree with somebody, you disagree with somebody on things. We can have that conversation. That's why we're here. Let's keep it moving, all right? Keep it moving in the media, because the media is all over. I mean, the media has this all over the place. Take a look at artists. Let's take it to music, like Drake, all right? People call Drake soft because he talked about his feelings on his records, you know, and he was light-skinned in that, and this kind of gets into that whole, you know, dark-skin, light-skin paradigm, that bullshit, you know, where it's just further divides black people based on skin tone, and it's something that actually divides multiple people, Asian people, you know, around the world. Darker skin to lighter skin. Fair skin is always supposed to be, you know, there's always more upper caste. It's higher in the caste system, typically. It's arbitrary nonsense, all right? We all gonna burn when the earth boils from global warming. But let me get off my box and get back to these brothers out here, all right? Wheelchair Jimmy. They called him soft. All right, now he's Champagne Poppy. All right, people giving him jets to fly around. And you know he busting all kinds of nuts on his private jet. Are you seeing that fade? All right, he was hiding his kid from the world. All right, Drake gets around so people can stop talking. But, you know, you think about early 90s, 2000s, things like that. When you had people that were doing R&B, kind of talking about their feelings, getting a little bit more intimate, it was some more dark-skinned brothers. You know, like so Tyrese, you know, your D'Angelo, your Boyz II Men, them. So the light skin thing didn't really play too well. Drake actually rode that to high success, you know. So, you know, I guess that was God's plan. Ha 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 ha. And then you got that whole it's the Chris Brown paradigm. All right, y'all remember Chris Brown? You know, I say the name Chris Brown, you might think of a couple things. You might think about his incredible dance moves and his ability to style and match Usher, who styled and matched Michael Jackson from all that time ago. You might think of his domestic assault cases that has been opened and closed over the years between different women, allegations. And you might remember him from when he first started out on that sexy flexy ass with songs like Excuse Me Miss, you know, where he was just a kid, you know, harmless, just kind of singing, crooning, all that. But they let him in. He didn't get to that hard, oh, I'm beating women, that I'm super tatted, all of that, until much later when he got older. When he came into the game, the point is, when he came into the game, all right, he was more, they called him soft. You know, people weren't the same thugs that might be listening to Chris Brown's records today. Definitely wasn't the same people that were listening to some of his early, or more R&B centric records when he was more feeling centric, more respecting women. Okay, I mean, y'all know how hip hop does. Y'all, I don't have to get into a whole bunch of examples of how hip hop does. You know, the whole idea of hypermasculinity is all over the DNA of hip hop. The idea of having a whole bunch of women and money and power and fame and this, that, and the other. You know, it's played. I'm sure you've already thought of at least 5 examples by now. So I'll leave that to you. The whole idea in media, well, the whole idea of repressing your feelings, right? That's also the hypermasculine paradigm, right? Because the hypermasculine male is going to succumb to his feelings. He's not going to break down and cry if he gets upset. You know, he's not going to give in to fear or anything like that. Of course not. No. So, repression of feelings is something that happens all the time in black males in real life, but also in TV. Perfect example, see Moonlight. I'm not going to say too much about the movie because it is fucking phenomenal and you need to go see it immediately if you haven't. And I don't want to ruin it with my own description because I'm not going to do it justice. But it's most certainly a great example of the idea of black man having to repress his feelings masculinity trumping that emotional resolution. It just, the boy goes through life. He has all these unresolved feelings, but instead he chooses a life of a harder life, that would more fit that masculine paradigm, because he just can't square that circle. It's brilliant. Definitely go check it out. And they some people pan it. It's like, oh well, this is just another example of them, emasculating the black man. I think I said demasculating earlier, so strike that asterisk. But again, take a look at Striking Vipers. All right, let's get recent. Black Mirror. All right, season 5, episode 1, I believe. Striking Vipers. Got your boy Anthony Mackie, aka Falcon, aka Captain America from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you don't know, I honestly don't know any other movie that he's in. So we're gonna go with that. Y'all know Falcon. Y'all seen Marvel movies. All right. People gave that episode all kinds of hell for having 2 black dudes kiss. For having 2 black dudes potentially be engaged in a homosexual relationship. Just totally ignoring all of the extra layers that episode came through. Them potentially being gay was just a very small piece of the overall puzzle. But you had people like the amazing Lucas on YouTube who really had a problem with the episode. He's one of those people that believe in that conspiracy of Hollywood wanting to keep the black man down by emasculating them, by turning them into women, or gay in this case. And there you go. I mean, that's it right there. Them being gay means that they're less masculine, means that it's part, which leads him to believe it's part of this conspiracy. Now, whether or not this conspiracy exists, I think there's a good argument on both sides, actually. It's kind of like, looking at it. But then again, all right, what? Only white men can dress in drag? Come on, get real. All right, let's that's just your insecurity getting in the way. All right, when you can't handle a dude put on an article of clothing that's typically female for a minute to play a role. All right, it's not in this, because we're not even talking about them walking around like drag queens even, or what have you, transgender, none of that. These are just people that are acting. Right, Wesley Snipes took that dress off and then he went and put on the black leather to do Blade and save Marvel Studios. Right, it's just a role. Get over it. Bet you won't run up on Wesley Snipes talking about, man, I saw you in that dress in Tu Wong Fu. Get clapped. But that's, again, hypermasculinity at its finest. Toxic masculinity even. This is what they really meant to talk about before toxic masculinity became a meme. Back at hip hop a little bit before I forget, because I'll be remiss if I not point this out. You ever wonder where your boy Frank Ocean's at? I bet you big chunk of the reason that he's gone all the time is because he doesn't want people all up in his business. He would get he is, as soon as his sexuality hit the news, I remember people stopped talking about the album altogether, and it was just, oh, he wouldn't, and he gay or bisexual, I can't believe it, and blah blah. And it was ridiculous. So Frank comes and goes, drops music off, doesn't show up for performances, puts up a radio podcast, whatever, and then he vanishes. Keep it on the low. He's not like he's on the DL or anything like that, which, sidebar, is another thing. The concept of being on the DL, right? That's something that, to the best of my knowledge, as far as I understand, definitely comes straight up out of the black community. The idea of some dude, maybe being married or in a relationship with a woman on the surface, but then on the low, on the down low, on the DL, he's actually with dudes. And that term in and of itself has a negative connotation. Right now, you could talk about the concern there would be the infidelity, not necessarily the sexuality involved in it. The infidelity is the more important part, but that's not what they're concerned about. Funny enough, that's not what they're concerned about in that situation. They don't care that you're cheating on your spouse. They care that you're fucking a dude. Maybe. Again, had nothing to do with them, but those insecurities shown up again. Tyler, the Creator, right? I heard Flower Boy. Flower Boy was hot, all right? Straight up. If you haven't heard Flower Boy, go check it out. And then go check out Igor, the new shit. That's hot too. All right, DJ Khaled, eat your heart out. But questions about his sexuality came up, in and out of there. And that boy weird. It'd be kind of fun. It's funny to me to think, that he's not entirely straight. So some of the people that listen to some of his older jams, some of his older records, they're a little bit hard, a little bit more rough. Definitely aren't the same people that listen to some of his newer stuff. I mean, some of them are. You get those diehard fans. But some of those more casual fans, they're definitely not. They heard old Tyler. They wouldn't like new Tyler. Totally different Tyler. Totally different Tyler. I think it's a better Tyler, personally. I love the growth, but you definitely have those hangers on, Like, he's rap, hip-hop, but his style has kind of divorced itself from that because that community is not all that welcoming. I mean, you got the likes of Young Ma, but she's a woman, and hypermasculinity would suggest, right, because we sexualize women, and the idea of a woman in a homosexual act is more accepting in society, and by that I mean it can be sexualized and thus is more accepting in Western society, American type society, hyper masculine society. And that just is what it is. And I want to get into all of that in a whole nother bit, right? So y'all, if you still here, you still listen, mark your calendars. We're going to talk about that in its own video and in whole other context, right? But think about it. Where are the other gay rappers at? They just don't really exist. And if they do, they're definitely not being promoted like they probably should. Maybe they do exist and they're trash. And, well, damn, what are you going to do? But I have a strange suspicion that, no, I know for a fact that a lot of times, especially in that industry, hip-hop, rap, that sexuality can hold you back as a black man. It just can. It just does. Has been. They're getting better. But here we are. We're talking about it now because we don't talk about it enough so we can get better faster so we can get over it. This is some petty shit. All right? And before I just remember, as I'm talking about rap, I got beats playing in my head. And I remember another archetype for the black man in media. It's the last one. But I'd be remiss if I did not bring up the pimp archetype, right? See, a pimp named Slickback. Like a Tribe Called Quest. You say the whole thing. A pimp named Slickback, character from Boondocks, voiced by Cat Williams. Love that character, hilarious. But that archetype right there of that's still hyper masculine. And think about this, because you have the prisoner archetype, more grizzly, less polished, a little bit more feral even. I go so far as to say, up against the pimp archetype, where he's dressed to the nines, got all kinds of jewelry, looking like King Tut, then fell into 2008, I guess. I don't know what a pimp looked like in 2019. Probably flexing with some Bitcoin. But anyway, two on the outside, right? Two completely different things. I mean, Snoop Dogg used to pimp. It's the stuff he used to wear, right? But they wouldn't call Snoop Dogg gay. Get clapped. Again, here we are. But that idea of not respecting women, owning women, controlling them, that idea of control, toxic masculinity, but an idea of masculinity nonetheless, which is another problem here. So the pimp thing. But you can look around media in a lot of different places and see all these things. I guarantee you can. I just gave you all these examples, but I'm sure you've already thought of 1,000 other examples in your head from other things that I hadn't even thought about yet, because it's that rampant. Hypermasculinity at number 2. And number 3, possibly the most damning, is that you can't tell niggas nothing. Quite frankly, right? Old black men especially, resistant to change, hard-headed. You try to tell them, oh, well, let's, I remember the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. And I say this again, all right? I remember my brother's graduation, high school graduation. Me and my cousin sat for the anthem, right? For the same reasons, essentially, that Colin Kaepernick did. If you're more familiar with that story, more or less, I didn't believe that America was treating black people well as it should. And I wasn't about to sit here and pledge my allegiance to a flag, of all things. I have friends in the military. I don't disrespect the military. Nothing like that. But the promises that are made, that flag represents more ideals. It's more politicians. And at the time, and even now, I wasn't really about all that. Wasn't feeling it. And if it's mandated, then it's not a freedom. All right, so kiss my ass. But at the time, my dad got all pissed off. Blew my phone all the way up. Said, how dare you? And hit me with all the reasons that I basically already listed. You disrespectful, blah, 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 blah. Didn't even let me finish. We didn't even talk about it. You know, I figured it's not worth pursuing. It's over with. Luckily, he was on the other side of the stadium. I didn't get clapped. But it is what it is. Fast forward. Colin Kaepernick takes a knee at the NFL. That boy got all kinds of sneaker deals. And, you know, my dad, of course, he likes football. He's all thinking about it now. He's like, oh, well, I think he has some good points. I'm like, bruh, ain't shit changed. It's only got worse. You didn't believe me then. Why? Because I was a kid? No. But that's what I mean. All right, go. You can't tell niggas nothing. They gotta get through it at their own pace, at a snail's pace, and that's not gonna be good as a community. We can't move forward if everybody's moving at different paces in different directions. It's just not gonna work. So I like us to work together. I like us to get on the same page about some shit, but some of you old heads need to let that old school shit go. Some of that shit work, and don't look. I'm a little old school, and that's to call myself complete liberal, all that. I like to have some information before I just wildly leap into decisions, right? I'm conservative at the very least in that regard, but once I have the information, I'm open to change. If it seems like the old ways will be better, then maybe not take these new ways. I am totally fine with rebuking a suggestion for a new way that's going to be worse. But if the new way is better, because the old way was absolute shit, then change it up. Or not. Get left behind, I guess. But you're only slowing it down. But there it is. Those are your three things. Those are your three solid, concrete reasons, factors, if you will, on why homophobia is so rampant in the black community. Again, the deep ties to the church, the idea of hypermasculinity and all that entails, and pride, pig-headedness, stubbornness, you know. And again, I mentioned this before. I think the pride thing is a great attribute, right? You look at black people, we've been oppressed in this country for hundreds of years. Still to this day, it's still going on in different forms of fashions, right? I'm not going to get too into it right now. That's just a fact. Can't debate me. This is what it is. Working on it. But we persevere, all right? So that mentality, that makes us one of the most formidable people. As population small as ours is, right? Ability to invoke change the way that we have in the short amount of time, as Fox News and people like that always like to say, you know, in the short amount of time we've made so much progress, yada yada yada. Wouldn't have been progress if it wasn't for black people like, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you know, the usual suspects, all those other people, RuPaul, you talking about gay rights, right? Mama Ru out here changing the game. Wesley Snipes daring to put on that dress, still bad motherfucker. You know, Dave Chappelle, you know, comedians nowadays addressing in their comedy, you know, things like that. It's moving us forward. So that's just something to chew on. This has just been me. I just had some feelings. I was feeling some type of way, and maybe you feeling some type of way too. If you are, let me know down in the comments. Let's cut it up. I know, again, if you've been triggered, I'm not sorry. I'm totally serious about everything that's coming out of my mouth. You know, I don't want to make you feel bad. So if you feel bad because of something I said, let me know. All right, so I can change it up. I'm always down to learn. Again, I'm always down to learn. I want to better myself. All right, but if you're just mad because you didn't like the way that I said something, that I can't help you. All right, we can talk about it, but hey, no promises. Again, if you like what you heard, like, share, subscribe, all that good shit. If you've been listening this whole time, thank you. I do this for us. I do this for y'all. And I kind of do it for me. It feels good sometimes to get some stuff off your chest. But again, thanks for rocking with me. And as always, peace.